I'm a bit of a keen runner, although I'm a touch slow at the moment. But what I have now, I'm joined today by the lovely Chrissie Stephenson, and she is a running coach. So I can't imagine how quick I'm going to get. She says she gets people going further and faster. So let's, without any further ado, bring on Chrissie. Hi, Chrissie. Thank you so much for joining me. Running coach, and based in Richmond or around the Richmond area.
Yeah.
Cool. Chris, first things first, how do you become a running coach? It's very specialised.
Yeah, so for me, it's quite a long journey. So I'm 41 now, and I was in corporate world until I was 37. When I was about 28, 29, I got massively into sport. I was someone who could not run around the block. It was embarrassing. It was so embarrassing that I used to go and hide. If I ran from my parents' house, I would jog out their house and go down a little alleyway near their home and hide there until I felt that it would look as though I'd been running long enough. And then because I was so humiliated by how rubbish I was. Yeah. Then I started to learn how to train, how to run. And so within a year and a half from being a complete non-runner, non-athlete, I was then competing at Ironman, which is full distance triathlons. And so you run a marathon at the end. And I was getting times to qualify for GB's team. So huge amount learned. I loved it, obviously. I don't think you can get good unless you enjoy it. And also because I was working very long hours in the city, I had to train smart, as we call it, and avoid all the junk miles, make sure that my training was done right, look after nutrition. For me, with sport, it doesn't matter which one you do. There's your physical training, there's your mental training, and there's your nutrition. And all three of those strengthen your performance or cause it to crash. And so I went on that journey. And for me, it added so much to my life that I was like, I want to help other people do this. But I've been in corporate world for so long, I was too scared to leave. It took me 7 years to leave. And I was very fortunate that the guy I worked with said, this is your passion. We're going to do a round of redundancies again. Do you want your name to be on the redundancy list? And go and do this. And I think if I hadn't had that conversation with him, I'd still be in the corporate world. And so, that was the start. So then, knew all this stuff, but then I was like, right, okay, I need to go and get qualified. So got myself qualified because it's one of those things where I firmly believe you don't know what you don't know. Yeah. And so make sure that I got the best qualifications in nutrition and in personal training, and also for me, the psychology behind coaching is really important. So that was step one. Then I can't remember how long you've been self-employed. I was utterly naive about it. Utterly naive. And and I'm glad I was, because I wouldn't have done it otherwise. But I didn't know anything about marketing. I was not so naive about that. And so my first 9 months, I was doing bits here and there, but not enough to think, okay, I can make a living out of this. Yeah. Also sort of testing the water with what I was doing. I worked for some big organizations like eBay, worked with London Business School as well. And great fun. Loved it all. And then for me, we were chatting about this earlier, running gives so much to people mentally that I was like, right, this is what I want my core to be about, because of how it makes people feel, like what it gives to people's lives. And so then I started focusing on the run coaching. I carried on with my corporate stuff on the side. And then, I don't know if you know this, Nick, so I was 9 months into self-employment, and I was cycling to take a group out, and a guy ran out into the road and knocked me off my bike, and my hip broke, and they weren't sure for another 2 years whether my leg would stay attached. So not great as a running coach.
So yeah, that's a challenge.
Yes, so that's step one of, it's probably step two. Step one was I knew nothing about marketing. Step two was I was in a very bad state in hospital, and I mean that was hard. That was hard, and also the main nerve into my face stopped working, and so my sight went and my speech went, and so in the world of self-employment, everything just disappeared. I was like, it was overload. Really, really tough time. And of course, being self-employed, I didn't get the sick pay. And because it was so early on in my journey, I didn't have the insurance against it because my income was all over the shop at that point. Still had my mortgage. And so really, really tough time. And also there was no guarantees as to when I'd get better with anything.
No. So can I ask you, so how long, I mean, that's the thing when when you're just starting out and you do trunk up, you just don't expect something as traumatic and life-changing as that. So how long were you actually incapacitated for? Or
so so I wasn't allowed to walk for 3 months, and then after that I could start putting a bit of weight down on one foot, and then started to learn to walk again, and and my speech and sight, they probably for about a year they were triggering on and off. So they were awful for ages, lots of horrible drugs. And then, like for me, one of the really cruel things was that this eye wouldn't shut. And so you learn stuff about your body. It's an ocular muscle. And so when it's relaxed, it's open. And so because the nerve signals weren't functioning to the eye, it stayed open. So you tape it shut.
Oh, wow.
But it would try and open up under the tape if this eye was open. And so I could hold it shut. Otherwise you go blind if you don't blink. But I wasn't allowed any weight on my leg. So I needed both hands on the crutches. And so they said, we're really worried about your hip and we don't know if it's going to bind back. So no weight whatsoever on that leg. You must have your weight. And I was like, right, well, I can't risk going outside because I can't be on both hands on crutches and one hand here. So, sort of to add to the, this is a tough time, I then couldn't leave home, which, you need mental stimulus when everything's falling apart. So it was bumpy ride. And so the accident was November, probably about March time, things were improving. And then it's just a real gradual build from there. And that was then when I was fortunate that one of my runners got in touch. She got in touch. My sight didn't go and speech didn't go immediately. That happened a couple of weeks later, but they think the accident was the trigger for it. And she got in touch and she was saying to me, oh, Chrissie, I'm really sorry, I can't make training. And I was like, oh, nor can I. And she's like, apologising for not being able to meet me. And then I was just like, brain, kick in. What are you going to do? You have no income. You've got to try and rescue what you can. And I said to her, well, actually, you phoned me and I've just landed in hospital. One thing we could do is I could coach you online. And therefore, what I will do is I'll tell you what you should be doing for where your running is and where you want to get to. But I'll also be holding your hand virtually, keeping you accountable. Because I think there is a bit where people don't know what to do. And there is also a huge amount where if you look at social media, everyone's telling you what you should do. And you're like, which of those do you pick?
You'll get a ton of information back. Then you've got to sift through what's right, what's wrong, what's good for you, I guess.
100%. And then also having the accountability to make sure she took the steps that she wanted to. And like we touched on before, there's a lot of people when they enter events, they get quite stressed about the build up to them, get quite worried that they're not good enough, that they're not sticking to plan. So part of it is making sure it's giving that confidence, because when you've got that confidence, you want to put the trainers on and go and do the training. It's all very, very circular. So that started, and also the other part started was that when I could walk again, I started jogging again, and eventually started running. And my running's never gone back to where it was, but I can run, so I'm happy. And some people said, "Oh, could you teach me to run?"
I see.
Because that instilled the confidence, having gone from someone who couldn't walk
to then running again.
Really understood the process of how hard it is to start. And it's like, I could tell people that I understood that, but people had seen what a mess I was in, to then getting myself back on track again. And so walk to run groups started in Richmond, and they were wonderful. And a huge part, again, it's about having the confidence to go out the door, going at the right pace for your body. Too many people go too quickly and make it. I think people who hate running, who say they hate running, it's often is that they're going too quick for where their body's ready for. So I teach people to slow yourself down to the right pace for you, and build yourself up at the right pace for you, and bring the fun back in, and stop worrying what everyone else around you thinks. They were wonderful. And then, of course, we have lockdown, which is the next step of challenge, because my walk to run groups, obviously for a lot of them, motivation was a huge thing. And so a big thing that kept them motivated was us meeting. For a lot of the online people that I coach, they wanted coaching to run marathons, run half marathons, and of course all the events got cancelled. So literally overnight again, business gone. And what I was doing with the guys who stayed with me, and it was interesting, some of the guys stayed with me because they're like, more than ever, I need the support and accountability, and I've got to look after myself. And the guys who stayed with me now, they're doing phenomenal things. I've got complete beginners who are running 10Ks every week.
Wow.
And they've done, and these are complete beginners in their 40s, 50s, 60s. They're not complete beginners who are like 20-year-old athletes.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's I tend to look after, I think because of my age, and possibly because of my hip, I attract slightly older people.
Old and infirm. Yeah.
Well, I mean, also,
hey, we need you.
But like, your body is so different from a 20-year-old. It's if you're quite an active 20-year-old, you can chuck on a pair of trainers and run. Whereas, for the vast majority of us, by the time you get to 40, you've spent an awful lot of time in a bad posture.
Yes, that's true.
Not looking after your body as well as you would like to. We all know what we should do within reason. And so with the guys that we started off with doing, right, okay, let's all run at the same time that we used to, and then have Zoom calls afterwards to hold that accountability, and we can keep the chat going. And then one of them turned around and said, I just can't do it. I'm struggling. Would I consider coaching her live over Zoom? And I'm like, I can't see how this could work. And I really don't, but well, we can give it a try. And that is where the bonkers wonderful Zoom running started. And it has been nothing less than wonderful. So what we did, first one we did with video on, and then of course, I need you to see where you're running. And so we stopped video after the first one. And so I run at the same time as everyone else. So we do a really gentle warm up. I get you warmed up at the right place. We do the right stretches at the start. Because if you get that bit right, the running becomes so much easier.
Oh, I was going to ask you about the whole stretching issue, because I don't want to name and shame her, but I know my sister, who's a GP. She never stretches.
No. No. And it's in all honesty, I'm rubbish at getting round to it. But I'm forcing people to do it, so it just becomes incorporated. And it's, if you do the right stretches, different ones at the start to at the end. At the start, it will prepare your body better for the run, and also do an awful lot to protect your joints, which is again super important as we're getting older. We're I'm assuming that the majority of your audience aren't 18, 20-year-olds.
Yeah, no, they're very. They're all super fit Olympians that watch me and my funny little live shows. No, I'm guessing we are all of a similar kind of, probably late 30s upwards.
Yeah.
So.
And it's a bit. I mean, even like when I trained seriously, I did that kind of stuff, and that was one of the elements that helped me get so good. I mean, obviously there was a lot thrown in, but actually, I broke my hip and I couldn't walk. I've run a half marathon without any injuries since.
Wow.
My tendons and ligaments were torn, broken, shredded apart. I've got pins in my hip. They weren't sure if my leg would stay attached for 2 years, and I can run a half marathon without injury because I do the right stuff.
That's brilliant.
I could still do an awful lot to correct my body, by the way. It's
Could I ask how far, because it's runner question, isn't it? It's like, well, how fast did you run? How fast do you run your half marathon? Only because I've got a killer story for a half marathon.
This one, I did an off-road one, and I've never done an off-road one before, and I think I was 2.5 in it. So I think I should do a half in about 2 hours at the moment. If it wasn't, it was literally straight up, and there were some parts you had to walk because it was too slippery on rocks, kind of thing. So I should be all right for about 2 hours, I think. But I don't train, as it were, anymore. I run for the enjoyment, for the love, and these nutty Zoom runs. I shouldn't call them nutty, should I?
I think they're brilliant.
But they're, one thing that's magical about them is they're fun and they're different, and so for a lot of people, it's the motivation to keep going. And I have 2 a week, and one of them is an interval session, and I'm doing the intervals at the same time. And all you've got is your headpiece in, earphone in, got your phone with you, attached to Zoom, and I'm coaching you over Zoom. But I think because I run at the same time, you can hear I'm getting out of breath, that it's hard work. I'm feeling the pain as well. And a lot of people have said it's as though I'm running next to them, but there isn't that humiliation of, oh, there's someone sprinting off in the distance. Do you know what I mean? And
I totally get that.
And that side of things. And then on Monday mornings, we do a steady chatty run, which my aim is to get you out the front door, outdoors before your day starts, before your week starts, doing something good for yourself, setting yourself up nicely for the week. And on that one, I tend to do a few technique prompts on it, because again, it makes such a difference to your running.
Yeah, techniques. That's the thing. I'm currently doing this thing on my phone app, only to just get back into running and try not to injure myself. And it's okay because I'm on week 9 now. But I was thinking that this morning is like, I'm still, what it doesn't tell me is how I'm supposed to be running to be more efficient. And it's still, hard work's not the right word, but it's still, no, it's the right word. It's still hard work. My legs seem to be okay, touch wood, but it's like the breathing goes out of, like the other day, it was lovely. I had nice breathing. Today, breathing was all over. It was hot. I was frustrated, and it just wasn't pleasant, but I still liked it. Yeah.
Well, also some of that becomes a little bit self-fulfilling, because as soon as you go, I'm not enjoying this, you start to release a whole load of hormones that exacerbate sort of the adrenaline function, and then your breath becomes shallower because it's as though you're under attack. So there's there's sort of steps through with everything. And if you release adrenaline, your body is getting ready to sprint away from the tiger, lion, whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so as a result, you'll often dump glucose into your system, and then you'll probably dump insulin in to bring so the glucose raises your blood sugar, the insulin lowers it down. And so you've got your hormone system go, which again, just aggravates everything. It puts you into a state of stress. And so often, whilst it's the hardest thing to do, is to calm yourself down and to slow it down and let yourself go back to a very steady one. One for you, if you end up doing that, if you feel like that again, 2 things I'd advise on, okay, give a try, is talking to yourself. Say stuff out loud, because when you say it out loud, several reasons for it. One is that if you can speak, you're running slow enough for oxygen to be cycled around your body, and your muscles need oxygen to work. Often it's just that you're going a little bit too quick for your body. So for that, something like, and say it positively, you can be, sometimes people use look to someone else. And it's a really simple one. One that goes in time with your feet is just go, I can, keep going, I can. Or if it was about someone else, look at someone in the distance and say, he can, she can, keep going. The other one is counting to 100. Count your footsteps up to 100. It's something one of the pros was telling me he did. And he did it on an Ironman where he got to mile 1 of the marathon. It was like, today's not the day. Can't do it. Yeah, my body's not functioning today. So in Ironman, the marathon's at the end. So you've done the swim, you've done the bike, then you go into the marathon. And he said that it was just game over. And this is a professional. And so like for him, he goes through the mental battles. You know, he's taught himself the mental resilience. And so he said that what he decided to do was count. He would run 100 more steps. And so he ran 100 more. And then he was like, he did that first 100, then he's like, right, let's see if I can do 100 more. Carried on like that and finished second in the race.
Wow. That's amazing.
It's phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And what he was doing was, 1, distracting his mind, and 2, slowing his running to a pace that his body was ready to cope for. Because you can't talk if you're sprinting.
No, not at all. Well, I have to say, I wasn't exactly sprinting this morning. But it's so true though, Chris, isn't it? You have mental things going on in your head when you just think, why? Even doing like last year, doing the park runs, for example, because we've got it's a 2-lap circuit we do here, and that mental thing of just starting the second circuit of that, and it's just like, because lots of people way in the distance, and you're thinking, really?
Yes. I know. I'm never sure on lap courses. I don't know if I prefer them. I think I prefer a single lap course. I would, unless it's a very long distance. But
yeah, actually, I'll tell you my half marathon story. I did the Burnham Beaches half marathon a couple of years ago.
Okay.
When I first came back from Germany, so I was quite fit in those days, and of course it's nice and undulating, very pretty and all that. But I was just coming up to the last kilometre, and I wasn't fast. It was 2 hours 28, I think, something like that.
So that's nothing to be. It's good.
I was happy. I got round, but I was literally going to walk the last kilometre because there was no one there. There was no one. My Debbie wife hadn't come and cheered me on or anything like that. She just said, "Yeah, go and fill your boots." She said, and I thought, I was like absolutely exhausted. I was thinking, oh, do you know what? Maybe I'll just walk. And I was just about. It was going up a hill, and I was just about to start walking, and then I saw my sister and my brother-in-law and sister-in-law had rocked up to watch.
Okay.
It was like,
all of a sudden,
or good, but there's absolutely no way I could walk, and it was great. I was just those little things, but I think for about half an hour beforehand, my head was saying, "Don't worry, you can always walk it. You can always walk it." And then the other part's going, "Don't you dare run, you little sausage, because you're not going very fast."
Yeah. And I also think that things like, I think personally, I think a lot of the endurance sports are quite good at, you notice how your brain behaves, and that you do have that dialogue. Whereas for the shorter stuff, it's just right, 1, 2, 3, go. Or with team stuff, it's, you know, the awareness of what everyone else is doing. So your mind's very busy. Whereas when you go into, you know, even a 5K, something where you're not sprinting, you've got all this chat going on in your head. And personally, I believe it builds up your mental resilience. You're learning that actually I can get over that bit, and I can push through and all the rest of it. It's but sometimes it's hard on your own, and so hence why the Zoom will be working.
Can I ask? We'll come back to Zoom run, but you glibly pasted over it earlier when you said you'd been in corporate, and then you just suddenly did this triathlon, this Ironman.
Yeah.
Like how on earth did you? Why did you think that was?
Yeah.
And B, how on earth do you start to train for that? Did you do little separate ones, or because I would love to do a triathlon, but that's where I've kept injuring myself, unfortunately. So.
Okay. Well, so for me, I'd first heard of Ironman when I was early 20s, and one of my best friends was dating a guy who did them, and I was how on earth does a person do that? Like, you must just be born differently. I honestly thought that you were born differently.
Yeah, must be.
You must have a very different upbringing, but not even that. Physically, you must be so different to the person that I am. It was so beyond anything that I'd ever considered. And basically, where many moons later, what I did was I went out with a friend for a run. So obviously it's swim, bike, run.
Yeah.
Mentally, I believed that running was the hardest, and that I could still swim. I didn't know at the time that I couldn't. I loved swimming as a kid, and I can swim in the sea without drowning. So obviously I'd be able to swim in a triathlon.
Only a couple of miles. Yeah, come on.
Yeah, I needed to learn a few lessons on that one. And then cycling, I was like, I think I'll be all right at that. And I was okay at cycling. And I went out for a run with a friend of mine, and we chatted. And we got home, and we'd been running for an hour and a half. And I was like, whoa, an hour and a half. And in my mind, that was how long a half marathon took. I had no idea that actually for a female, an hour and a half is pretty quick for a half marathon. Yeah. But in my mind, we didn't have Garmin watches. We didn't have GPS or anything like that at the time. We'd been out for an hour and a half, so we must have just run a half marathon. We probably ran 10K, about half the distance, but... And then so that happened that weekend. Then the next weekend, I went out for a bike ride. It was something that someone had said that they didn't believe I could do, and I was like, it was actually an ex-boyfriend. He said, "Oh, I don't think we should cycle to Brighton because it's too far for you." And I was like, "Well, why can't I just try?" And I was like, worst comes to worst, I'll get tired. I'll have food. I'll take my phone. Worst comes to worst, I phone a taxi and have to get a taxi home. And I know a lot of people who live from where I was living at the time down to Brighton. Someone will help me out. And so I cycled down to Brighton and back. And then I was like, well, actually, that was all right. And I was like, okay, hold on. Last weekend, you ran a half marathon. This weekend, you've cycled 70 miles and not noticed it. Those are the distances for a half Ironman. Why don't you enter one? And so I entered one, and unfortunately, it was full.
Oh.
And so I was then little miss. Oh, I can say to everyone, oh, I was going to do a half Ironman, but I couldn't because it was full. And then 2 days later, I got a phone call at work to say someone's dropped out. You've got their position.
Oh no.
And I used to work in quite a strict is the wrong word, but you could hear a pin drop in my office.
Oh, right.
It was quite serious where we were, and I swore. I couldn't help it. System, and I genuinely think that, like, so with triathlons, they have cut-off points after the swim, after the cycle, after the run, effectively, mostly for safety reasons, because they want to make sure that they know that everyone's out the water. And, you know, after such a length of time, they can, if they haven't counted everyone who went in the water, they know that they need to get safety guys out, and equally with the bikes, to get them off the road by a certain time. But to me, that put a huge amount of pressure on me. Everyone I spoke to didn't think I could do it. They were, they weren't being malicious. They were just like, you don't do exercise. I mean, I don't do exercise. That's bonkers. You know, you can't do it, blah, blah, blah. And I think it wasn't to prove them wrong, but it was that I was scared about missing the cutoff times.
Gotcha.
And then I learned to train properly. I already knew, I had enough awareness about training to understand there are ways and means to train. It's the case of put on your trainers and go run if you want to get quicker or better. There are ways and means to optimize what your body's doing. And so I trained properly. And so I did my first half Ironman. That was 6 months later, and just loved it. So much fun. And yeah, undoubtedly best decision of my life, without a shadow of doubt. And like with the swimming, that is 90% technique. And so, you know, I just got very religious on how I was doing my training in the swimming. And then, you know, not be funny, I got very good because I was being quite dedicated in how I was going about everything. And, you know, I met people in that circle, and the guy I became really good friends with, he was friends with a lot of pros. And there was a group of probably about 15 of us, and I was apparently being ridiculed for only having done a half Ironman. And therefore, the step then came that I should go for a full. And it was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. It's,
what a tough crowd. I mean, really, you know, half Ironman is good. It's like, that's more than they do in the Olympics, isn't it? That's
yeah. So the Olympics is half of the half Ironman.
So, you know, it takes a long time. I'd known about triathlon when I was in my early 20s, because I worked with a girl, Karen. I can't think what her surname was. And her and her husband, excuse me, he was an Ironman, and he'd done it in Hawaii. We're talking back in the late 80s now. And they were going to get married, and he said he wasn't going to marry anyone that wasn't an Iron woman. So she had to go and do her. I mean, she was crazily fit, Karen, and strong, and she did she completed the Ironman in Hawaii, and they got married out there, which was really cool. And
cool.
We used to see them, and I see their little triathlon mates, and they were all way fitter than me. So they said drinking, smoking.
It's so interesting though, like how your fitness can jump. And like once I'd done the Ironman, I was like, well, yeah, it was so weird doing the marathon. That's the first marathon I'd ever run. And I could just keep going. I don't really need to stop right now. I could just keep running because she was just so fit. If you train right. But also it's one of those things again where like my job, we work such long hours that I had to train smart. I had to make the training sessions count, rather than, you know, it wasn't a case of doing hours upon hours upon hours. And also like after the Ironman, I then went more into bike racing. Some of the girls there that I used to race bikes with, or used to train with, the hours that they put into their cycling, but they were like 10, 15 years younger than me and slower. And I was like, for the hours that you're doing, you would think that you were quicker than me, but you're not. And, you know, and just because they weren't training right, they're feeling like to put the result onto Instagram, Strava, what have you, there's sort of this weird pressure to put on that you're doing all this training. And I was like, yeah, but you're exhausting your body, and your body's not recovering enough, and so you're getting weaker and weaker and weaker rather than stronger and stronger.
Yeah. So how do you do the smarter training then? Obviously, just give us a little.
Yeah.
So I like smart training.
Oh yeah, no. They're like so. I'm on Instagram, and I'm friends with a lot of really lovely people on Instagram, but I look at what they're doing, and I'm like, oh. If you're doing it for the love of being out, keep cracking on. But some of them get really frustrated that they're not getting quicker, and it's just, well, you're exhausting your body all the time. So huge thing is, number one, you probably heard this, the 10% rule. Don't increase anything by more than 10% 1 week to the next. Because you're
so frustrating when you're starting afresh from an injury, isn't it?
Oh, massively. But even like once you've got your stable base, again, no more than 10%. Your body can't. So when you do exercise, you actually damage your muscles, you tear your muscles, and then what happens is they bind back again as a bigger, stronger muscle. If you get the protein in and you let the recovery period start. Whereas if you start training before they've bound back stronger, you're then training on weak, torn muscles that don't function as well. And so therefore you won't get quicker, you won't get stronger, because you're training on a tired body. Whereas if you let yourself recover,
I see,
then your body you then train on a stronger base, and then you push that stronger base to a new level. And so things like, I'm sure you've heard of interval sessions where you do a hard effort, then recovery, hard effort, and recovery. For the majority of people, you at most want to do them once a week. And the rest of your training should be, 80% of training should be super easy. Super easy. Yeah. You should be able to breathe, talk comfortably. And that is, if you start doing that, then you'll see the change in your body. The vast majority of people don't do their slow enough, or their hard enough. And you've got the way your fitness works. You've got your cardiovascular system, and you've got an aerobic zone, anaerobic zone. Okay, your anaerobic is the really sprinty stuff. Your aerobic is your sort of steady state marathon running, or steady 5K, whatever steady is for you. And what a lot of people do is they work in the ground where they're utilizing both systems, so neither system gets developed well enough. And the system sort of your heart works is a bit like a balloon. You can pull it from the outside to stretch it, or you blow it up from the inside. And you make your heart a bigger, stronger muscle. And so the sort of pulling from the outside is like doing all the sprint work, the hard effort stuff. And then the blowing the chamber up from the inside is all the steady state stuff. But you want to focus on one or the other to optimize how your body performs. But 80% at least should be super, super easy. And it's really, really hard to do. Runners should be overtaking you. But when you start doing that, give it a few weeks, and then boom, you just notice that jump. It's a hard discipline to get into, but it's certainly what I used way back when. And then I speak to the English and athletic coaches a lot, and it's still the most effective, to our understanding today, it is still the most effective way to train. Most effective, wow. People train speed, and it's like, no. The speed comes from training right, at the right effort for your body, not, you don't train to a speed.
I see. Oh, because I was under the illusion that you got your speed up by just doing intervals that just get you quicker, but not if you're doing them. It helps. Like, intervals are very good for pushing your body, as long as you're pushing hard enough. And also when you run quickly, you tend to change your running form.
and you run, if you run quickly, your knee tends to come up higher. Whereas when you go slowly, sometimes people's feet don't really get off the ground. So you're starting to develop your biomechanics into a quick runner's biomechanics. So if you look at Mo Farah, any of the top guys, their knees come right up, their foot go around and kick their bum, they land their foot underneath their hip. And that circle continues. Whereas if you look at steady people, when they're out, their feet go that far off the ground.
I feel like shuffling at times. You just think,
and also it happens, it's an element of your fitness, your biomechanics, doing the right strength work will help that kick in as well. It's
oh wow, it's fascinating, and and I love running, so I could talk to you forever. I want to and hopefully won't break this now by this new this new and exciting thing we can do, which is we can do the Zoom run. Let's see if we can. I'll put your dash. Look, I'll go on the top. Yes, that's the Zoom run. So that'll that's your PDF. That's a link to your PDF, and hopefully that will appear in the comment section. If it doesn't, I will go whack it in manually afterwards anyway. But yeah, so you got a PDF. How do people tap into your Zoom run, join you? That's a nice thing, of course, as well. Is that obviously they don't have to be local to you, so they can be anywhere.
Yeah, we had a guy from Australia on this morning.
Oh wow!
Australia, which is very cool. Very cool. So he was like, "Oh well, actually, I'll have finished work as you guys are starting your day, so that will be a really nice way for me to finish my Monday." So that worked well. So basically, what happens is in that PDF, there's a link to come and give it a try. So all you have to do is click on the link, and then let me know if you'll be with us on a Monday evening or a Wednesday evening. Monday morning or Wednesday evening. So Monday mornings is the steady chatty run. Wednesday evenings is the interval session. And if you are considering joining the intervals, what I do want to say is please don't panic about them. We warm up gently and I build you up properly so that you can go into it. And basically click on the link there, and I'm also with these, I support, I don't know if you've heard of Campaign Against Living Miserably.
Oh no, don't know that one.
So they're a wonderful organisation, and they were set up in sort of recognition that oh gosh, what's the proportion? Something as scary like 85% of male deaths under 45 are caused by suicide. So they try to address that and help guys. Their focus is slightly more on that than other parts, but phenomenal organisation. And so the Zoom runs supports that as well. And basically, you come and give it a try. Click on the link, and what will happen is you'll get an email from me with the link to join. Join in. If you hate it, I have yet to have anyone who hated it, but you can just cut out. Like, you just turn the call off. There won't be any alarms going off for anyone else. So yeah, all you would need to do is have Zoom, download it on your phone, click the link at the start time. So there's 6 p.m. on a Wednesday evening. The reason for that was get people out away from their laptops. Don't work all the way into the evening. Let's, everyone's working from home so much. Right, let's step away, go and do something fun, do something positive. And yeah, joining the run, and I let people know when we're going into cool down. So if anybody does want to carry on running, they can carry on running, or they can join us for cool down and stretching. And
what time do you do it on what time are you on Monday?
So, morning? Monday mornings it's 7:45 to 8:25. So my aim is that it still gives you time to get home, quick shower, to start by 9 o'clock. And then on Wednesday evenings we're at 6 p.m.
Fantastic. Oh, I love it. And how many people do you have on there now? Is it just growing and growing?
Yeah, it varies. August is always a weird month for me because people are away on holiday. Although, like, a few of them were saying, "Oh, I might actually give it a go while I'm on holiday." No one has so far, but yeah. So it's varying week. Numbers are very weird at the moment. But we've had. I don't know if you saw that Tom Bedford joined, he's a 2:19 marathon runner. So
I saw that on your Facebook page. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely phenomenal. And I was quite daunted about having him on. And he absolutely loved it. But then I've also had complete beginners on. So it's because it's done on effort, not on speed. It's like, right, you should be running at an effort of 7 out of 10 now, 8 out of 10. This is how you should feel.
But isn't that nice though? So you can actually, you can actually run. You can do your Zoom runs and your training runs with an elite marathon runner.
Yeah.
But that's but and it's again because you're with the time as opposed to the distance. I think that's why one of the geniuses of what you've created there, because it's a level. It's almost like a handicap system for golf or anything like that, isn't it? Suddenly you can run with super fast people because actually you're not running next to them. You're just running with them. That's so cool. And you always run with them, Chrissie, or do you have
see where it goes to. One day in the future, I might get other coaches in so I can have more times. I have to manage my body to do these sessions. There's friends of mine out in Hong Kong who want me to do lunchtime sessions so that they can do them after work. But at the moment, 2 sessions a week, my body's happy with. So we'll see where this goes in the future, but it's certainly something that's here to stay. And and I'm doing it, and people are saying that that's one of the biggies, is that I'm doing it live. There's another company who did something similar, but you're just so aware that the person speaking to you is in a studio, not running. And you'll hear me getting out of breath. I won't pretend. I'm a very
that's reassuring though.
But I mean, like on the PDF, there's a couple of comments from some of the guys who've come out. So have a look at those, see what people have said. I actually get too many messages back to be able to upload them. I'm trying to get them all uploaded because at the end my phone's full. It's lovely. I'm so pleased. But for me, it's about making people feel amazing. And people are saying that they're running quicker than they have done. They've been battling with their running for 3 years and they're hitting PBs. There's a guy who he used to be a professional rugby player, and then he stopped doing that. Then came Zoom. He's been running for, I think he said about 8 years. And what was his 10K time? I can't remember the time now. But since he's done Zoom running, he's smashed his 10K PB and hit the target that never thought he could. He was like, I was a pro rugby player, and I couldn't get that time. Now he does the Zoom runnings, done. And it's one of those things where that when you're with other people, you do tend to push yourself a little bit more than you would on your own.
That's so true. I mean, when I do it with my little app in the mornings, it's so easy because it's just me. To just go, what?
And
people, no, it wouldn't happen.
No, and there's something about, and then where I think this also works quite well is because you're not running with someone else by your side. So some people I know will slow down to make the other person feel better. Some people will get frustrated because the other person's too slow, and so you don't ever really push your body to your own body's limit. Whereas with this, people are going right up to their limits, and that's what's making the difference in the training. So it's very cool.
Oh, fantastic. Well, guys, we've got the comments. We put the links in the comments. It's on both the YouTube channel and on the Facebook comments. Download that PDF and give it a go. Chrissie, sorry, the time has flown by.
I can talk for Britain.
It breaks my heart to call it a whole. It's just like you're so knowledgeable, and it just your passion just shines through on the camera.
Like I'm so happy I found this, because I think it works. Like it's really good for people. It's really cool.
Cool. Listen, thank you so much for sharing your time. I'm going to say, you're more than welcome to come on and tell us more afterwards. I think I think there's plenty more to tell, but for now, Chrissie, thank you so much indeed, and have a phenomenal rest of the day, everybody. Download that PDF, and we'll see you again tomorrow